All right. All right, all right, all right. Okay. Welcome to the live. Now, I know that tomorrow a chapter should be coming out. Unless there's some new information that I'm not aware of. But I don't think I ever made a video the day before the chapter might be coming out. I'm not entirely sure, but today is the perfect day. Today is the perfect day for me to make a video, and so that's what I'm going to do. So we got chapter 4, 7, and 5, Transcendence. And so, kind of doing a little bit of a recap, more so for me, to kind of express some of my thoughts and kind of make my brain work again. It's been a minute since I didn't thought about the chapter. But so basically, with last chapter, it was Veray who was in her big fight to basically buy time and distract. And I believe she might have gone and reached the next stage of her core, but it's not 100% sure. But it's likely though. It's really likely. But she was getting messed up though. She was getting messed up by the two Vitra-blooded people. Let me know if my audio is pretty good, because I know that I got my truck running so I don't sweat to death, and so hopefully it's not too loud. But let me see. Okay, all messages. There you go. But so let me just get into the chapter, man. Let me just get into the chapter. Try to get this out today. We got the NFL draft. I'm gonna try to keep up with that today, so that's gonna keep me a little busy. But I want to try to get this video out before the actual draft started. So, but I'm excited though. I'm excited. We got Arthur point of view, Transcendence. I don't know what that means, but maybe Arthur has made a breakthrough. Maybe he's made some progress in understanding fate. Possibly, maybe, I don't know. But let's get started. So I think he's sick, my mother said, rocking me back and forth in her arms. He's not eating, Reynolds, and he hasn't made a peep at all. Wait, he hasn't made a peep all day. My father moved to stand at my mom's side. He stared down at me nervously. I can send for the doctor. He made the statement a question, his voice rising along with his brows as he regarded my mother uncertain. Mom's brows, on the other hand, descended thunderously. Can you, Ray? That would be lovely. My father flinched back, rumbled the back of his neck awkwardly, and mumbled, of course, I'll... Whatever else he might have said trailed off as he hurried away. Mom rolled her eyes at his back, then refocused her attention on me. That father of yours. She tried to smile, but the expression didn't quite reach her eyes. She poked my stomach gently, wiggling her finger back and forth to tickle me. With any luck, you'll get his good looks, but my brains, little Arthur. I was aware of this exchange, but I did not think about it. My conscious mind sat nestled within my infant body, in control and living with it. In control and living with it moment to moment, instead of allowing the keystone to pull time away from me in the way you might pull a carpet out from under someone's feet. I clung to it, desperately intent on remaining myself, being myself. Okay, I mean, that makes sense, just because of everything that he's gone through with the whole, lives and different realities that he's lived, or circumstances that he's lived and gone through. So that makes sense. But I mean, how far can he actually take this though? I really don't know what's gonna happen, so I'm not even gonna do no guesses, because I don't know. We'll just see. I would not lose myself again, only to wake up with the memories of another man's life. I had told myself repeatedly, while pointedly not thinking about the heartbreaking events of my previous attempt at the Keystone. Yeah, everything was going so great, perfect. King Arthur, Queen Tessia, and then murder in your sleep. That's messed up. Um, so he was trying not to think about the heartbreaking events of my previous attempt at the Keystone, and I meant to keep this promise to myself, only I still didn't understand how. But I was starting to understand a piece of the Keystone at least. After my last two lives, I felt confident that I saw the trap in it. So there's a trap? So he felt confident that I saw the trap in it. The reason one could not leave until they had completed, quote unquote, the Keystone, and why that was so unlikely. So he must be talking about how he was able to change the course of his life by accepting the artifact to push himself to white core. Maybe that's how he figured it out. So he found out the reason why he could not leave until they had completed the Keystone, and why that was so unlikely. The lives lived were punishing in a way I hadn't expected. Already my memories of these lives were full of bitterness, regret, and loss, despite not really being myself during these events. The memories of my decisions, of my feelings, my deaths were vivid. So I guess it's just supposed to be all negative, I guess. He's supposed to remember that maybe the negative emotions are stronger, and that's why he can cling on to those and remember those. Okay, phone was freezing. I was still unsure if Sylvie and Regis and their respective abilities were central to my continued progress. But now I was sure there was more to it than just that. Despite the Jin's ability of foresight, it seemed like a bridge too far to think that they had accounted for, expected, or even required the presence of three connected minds to enter and alter the Keystone in whatever way would fulfill its purpose. It seemed like a bridge too. Yeah, right. It doesn't make sense for them to think that, oh yeah, the person who's gonna do all the trials and get all the Keystones, you just gotta have two other people who have a different a different, what is it called? A different ether. What? I can't think. But Arthur has Spatium, Sylvie has Avum, and Regis has Vivum. What are they called? They're called aspects of ether, maybe? I don't know. But anyway, I don't think they would have prepared for that either. So I want to know what he figures out. So let's see, let me just keep reading. Unsure. Okay, so yeah, to alter the Keystone in whatever way to fulfill its promise or to fulfill its purpose. What they had accounted for, on the other hand, was the requirement that a mage already knew three very specific ether arts to have reached this point. The abilities taught by the previous Keystones had acted as keys into this puzzle. But as I sat within the days and weeks of mulling rumination, I grew more and more convinced that they had to be more than just keys. After first arriving and experiencing the miracle of my own birth for the second time, I shouldn't have been able to see. I shouldn't have been able to see the ether gathering for my awakening, but I had. The importance of that had been lost on me in the following repeated attempts at this life. But in retrospect, this strange fact felt like some kind of clue or hint towards the Keystone solution. Okay, yeah, I remember that one time he saw the ether, even though he didn't have a core. I remember that. But pursuing any clue was itself a problem I wasn't sure how to solve. After all, how could I attempt to make a change to learn more about it if the act of making that change meant I lost all sense of what I was doing, at least until I was born yet again with an entirely new life's memories stuffed in my exhausted brain? There has to be a way to navigate this place more purposefully, I told myself, thinking of the relatives of the compass. A cry erupted from my tiny form and I pulled back, letting time pass as my mother cleaned and fed me. A distantly uncomfortable experience to focus on. Before I knew it, I was a toddler yet again, already near my awakening. I lurched back into the present with a jolt of fear. I'm not ready to go farther. Not yet. Perhaps due to my temporal, I think that's just temporal proximity to the day of my awakening, I was again reminded of the strange sight of etheric particles swarming as if to speculate that event. Or to spectate, not speculate, spectate that event. I should not be able to see ether, but there are times that I can. What could that mean? Tentatively, I reached for Realm Heart. My infantile body contained no guide rooms, of course, but my real physical body did. If there were times I could see ether, it could only be because some sense of it was bleeding between the mental keystone realm and the physical world. But if there was some physical connection, I could not find it. Like my search for Sylvie, attempting to activate Realm Heart revealed nothing. Sylvie. I am here. The ghostly apparition of my bond manifested in front of me. She was sitting with her legs crossed and watching me carefully. It's fascinating. I can see it all in your mind. Everything we've already discussed across these multiple lives you've lived. Also, she's keeping track of everything that happens too. Okay. Good. That at least saves me the trouble of explaining it over and over again, I answered, realizing I haven't been shielding my thoughts at all because there had been no need. To continue our previous conversation, I think, to continue our previous conversation, I think I may have an idea. I waited, silently encouraging her to continue. If we need a catalyst to wake the real Sylvie's mind and allow me to bind to her, perhaps we can channel the energy of your awakening. How? I have no clue. Well, that's not really a plan. I guess that's exactly what it is, idea, right? I sat with the idea for a while, trying to use what I knew about magic to piece together a possible solution. Unlike the Sylvie's resurrection egg, however, I was not handed some strange mystical power. Whatever I did would be up to me, and if it didn't work, I might drastically alter the timeline and end up forgetting all over again. I began reaching for Realm Heart again, more as a meditative practice than any expectation that I would actually make the connection. It was like trying to curl the fingers of a hand that was no longer attached to my body. Sylvie and I remained there for what felt like hours to my disconnected brain and body, but I was certain that my mother would have come to check on me if that were the case. Pudgy fingers raised to dig into my bare sternum. I scrunched up my face and scratched more vigorously. There was an itch deep inside my chest that I couldn't seem to scratch. So he got that itch from his core being hurt and not, I guess, completely healed. So maybe that has something to do with something. I always thought that whole itch thing was a strange, like, negative effect or negative consequence from the fight with Cecilia. Like, it just, I always found that whole fight just to be strange with him getting damaged that way, because it didn't make any sense. With Ether, the way it healed, how it healed completely, it didn't leave any scars, any marks, and just how a little scratch from his own sword was enough to where he needed to use all the ether in his whole body just to fix that one little scratch. Like, that's still crazy to me. And then it didn't even completely heal it. He's now got this itch. Maybe there's more to it. My vision flickered, and for a moment, Sylvie lit up like an old Earth Christmas tree. Her body made a light, both mana and ether. The sudden change made me flinch, and it blinked away. What was that? Sylvie asked, looking at me with a mixture of concern and excitement. Do it again. I looked at her and tried to unfocus my eyes, to cross them, to stare so hard that the lights would appear again. When they didn't, I closed my eyes entirely, clenching my little fists and straining to reach that mindset that had just flickered past me like a moth in the dark. There was a sudden rumble, and the room filled with an embarrassing smell. Did he just fart or shit on himself? I grimaced, and my mother appeared to clean and change me. I endured the experience, afraid to slip. He was trying to concentrate so hard, he ended up sharting himself. I endured the experience, afraid to slip free of the bonds at that moment. When she was done, Instead of leaving me to my business, she carried me out of the room on her hip, bouncing me and singing softly. I was so close, I grumbled to Sylvie, who walked patiently along at my mother's side. My fingers dug into my sternum again. Do you have an itchy, Art? Mom asked suddenly, holding me up for inspection. Her fingers brushed the spot with a soft humming noise. I don't see anything, but her fingers sparkled with magic, and I felt the soothing mana move through me. Although it wiped away the ache in my legs and backside from sitting for so long, it only highlighted the strange itch I felt in my core. I squirmed, and my speech came out as a burbling coo. Art, what? Oh. I had shaken free of mother and pattered away in my Tyler style, doing my best version of a run back to the bedroom. Okay then, I can take a hint, my mother said with a mild, sarcastic amusement as I crawled off. Plopping back down, I turned my focus inward as best I could. Closing my eyes, again I reached for Realmheart. The itching sensation grew more pronounced. I felt a lopsided grin tremble across my face. My core, Sylv. I can feel my actual core. That damn itch. I can feel it. Following the uncomfortable sensation like a beacon, my keystone-bound consciousness reached for my physical body. Although my eyes were closed, the air within the bedroom grew warm and with sudden glow of atmospheric mana and ether. Slowly, I opened my eyes and gaped at the motes of red, yellow, blue, green, and purple that swam all around me. I took a deep breath, and a little shudder ran down my spine. With Realmheart active, I simply sat and stared. It was beautiful, and it changed everything. I quickly began to feel tired, so I released my connection to the guide room. The floating mana particles faded away, leaving only the purple motes of ether. After another few seconds, they too vanished. Despite this fatigue, I wasn't discouraged. In fact, I was exhilarated. So what does this mean, though? Because if he can see Realmheart, I mean, can he actually keep that active or keep it to where he can use it in his later years in life as his body develops? Because it seems like his body's too weak to be able to use it because of the itch and how tired he feels because he's a toddler. So I wonder what kind of idea he's got. Despite spending most of my conscious time living in the present moment, the next couple of moments seemed to fly by in a blur. With the ghostly version of Sylvia at my side, I practiced connecting to and activating Realmheart, Aurora's Requiem, and King's Gambit. While Realmheart seemed to work more or less as expected, I couldn't utilize Aurora's Requiem to repair a broken item as I had in real life. And King's Gambit served more to muddle my thoughts than to clarify them. And I had yet to duplicate the effect of splitting my mind and considering many possibilities at once. I suspected that it was due to my inability to actually manipulate ether inside the keystone. Still, Sylv and I had a plan that we were confident in. The day of my awakening arrived at last. I began my meditation as usual, slowly condensing all the mana within my body to my sternum. Sylvie floated with me, hovering at the center of that spot like Regis so often did. She was silent, but her thoughts were hyper-focused on real Sylvie's slumbering mind. Despite being asleep, her connection to me remained. I mean, that makes sense. I don't know why would we think that the connection wouldn't be on there. What up, though, Micah? I'm pretty tired, though, for real. It's been an exhausting day today, but let's try to get through this. So yeah, the connection with Sylvie remained, which meant that there were two halves of Sylvie's whole present inside of me. It's beginning, I projected to Sylvie. Hold on, it might get a bit bumpy in there. Using the itch of my core as a tether back to my body as I'd done before, I activated Aurora's Requiem and focused on the ghost of Sylvie. At the same time, I opened my mind to the real Sylvie, reaching through our link to give her a strong mental shake, or trying to at least. I couldn't be certain it was successful. A powerful pushing force erupted out of me as my core formed and awakened. Closing my eyes, I channeled Aurora's requiem into Sylvie, willing her to be whole and complete again. I projected my desire and requested to the ether. I knew. Wait, I projected my desire and request to the ether I knew was gathering around our town to watch the explosion unfold, drawn by some unknown twist of fate. I couldn't manipulate it the way I did my own purified ether, but if I was right, a new echo of my condensing mana, the atmospheric ether also gravitated towards me, through me, within the pushing force within my body. When the core that was rapidly forming out of the explosion that lowered our house, the violet motes shimmered and danced around the ghostly manifestation of Sylvie. The force of my awakening rippled outward, not only in the Keystone space, but it also vibrated through my physical body and connections I had with my companions. Somewhere outside yourself, I felt Sylvie's eyes open up. Her ghostly form spilled out of me, transparent golden eyes wide as she spun around, momentarily untethered, the reality and uncertain, and was happening. And reality was uncertain what was happening. Her thoughts snapped and sparked across the surface of my mind, like the scales of a lightning drake. There was a liquid texture to her transparent body as she seemed to shift and reform, aging and then de-aging rapidly as she facilitated between younger and pre-birth versions of herself. And slightly older Sylvie I was familiar with over these many months. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna have some AI do some reading. My throat is kind of hurting. Like, I think I might just be dry, but I'm gonna try to have the AI do a little bit of reading because I am not cool with the reading right now. Maybe I'm just tired. Maybe that's just what it is. I'm probably just tired. But alright, let's see.
Power off.
Alright, power off. Let's see if this is going to work. I got a different voice this time too. I've been kind of listening to this new voice for a while, and this new voice is I think it's pretty good. Let me see here.
Despite spending most of my conscious time living in the present moment, the next couple of months seemed to fly by in a blur. With the ghostly version of Sylvie at my side, I practiced connecting to and activating Realm Heart, Aurora's Requiem, and King's Gambit.
It's also kind of funny to hear how the AI like kind of pronounces some of these words too. I couldn't utilize Aurora's Requiem to repair this is with the ghostly version of Sylvie at my side. I practiced connecting and activating Realm Heart, Aurora's Requiem, and King's Gambit. Okay, that's where we are.
While Realm Heart seemed to work more or less as expected, I couldn't utilize Aurora's Requiem to repair a broken item as I had in real life, and King's Gambit served more to muddle my thoughts than to clarify them, and I had yet to duplicate the effect of splitting my mind and considering many possibilities at once. I suspected that it was due to my inability to actually manipulate ether inside the Keystone. Sponsored content. Still, Sylvie and I had a plan that we were confident in. The day of my awakening arrived at last. I began my meditation as usual, slowly condensing all the mana within my body to my sternum. Sylvie floated within me, hovering at the center of that spot like Regis so often did. She was silent, but her thoughts were hyper-focused on the real Sylvie's slumbering mind. Despite being asleep, her connection to me remained, which meant that there were two halves of Sylvie's whole present inside of me. Its beginning, I projected to Sylvie. Hold on, it might get a bit bumpy in there. Using the itch in my core as a tether back to my body as I'd done before, I activated Aurora's Requiem and focused on the ghost Sylvie. At the same time, I opened my mind to the real Sylvie, reaching through our link to give her a strong mental shake. Or trying to, at least. I couldn't be certain if I was successful. A powerful pushing force erupted out of me as my core formed and I awakened. Closing my eyes, I channeled Aroa's requiem into Sylvie, willing her to be whole and complete again. I projected my desire and request to the ether I knew was gathering around our home to watch the explosion unfold, drawn by some unknown twist of fate. I couldn't manipulate it the way I did my own purified ether, but if I was right, in a kind of echo of my condensing mana, the atmospheric ether also gravitated toward me, through me. Within the pushing force, within my body, within the core that was rapidly forming.
So he's using his core to manipulate, or his formation of his core to manipulate the ether to use Aurora's requiem, and he's trying to focus it on Sylvie.
Out of the explosion that leveled our house, the violet motes shimmered and danced around the ghostly manifestation of Sylvie. The force of my awakening rippled outward not only in the keystone space, but it also vibrated through my physical body and the connections I had with my companions. Somewhere outside of myself, I felt Sylvie's eyes snap open. Her ghostly form spilled out of me, transparent golden eyes wide as she spun around. Momentarily untethered from reality and uncertain what was happening, her thoughts snapped and sparked across the surface of my mind like the scales of the lightning drake. There was a liquid texture to her transparent body as she seemed to shift and reform, aging and then de-aging rapidly as she vacillated between the younger, pre-rebirth version of herself and the slightly older Sylvie I was familiar with over these last many months. Sylvie, you're all right. Don't worry, you're just waking up. My bond gazed down at her incorporeal body, let out a scream only I could hear, then swelled outward, bursting into the form of a dragon.
Why did she scream, I wonder? Maybe just shock, I guess? I don't know.
Her broad, black-scaled chest rose and fell heavily, and her long neck twisted back and forth, scanning the environment. Had her very real fear not been pumping directly into me, the sight of this huge, transparent dragon flailing around while my mother and father tended to me none the wiser would have almost been humorous. It wasn't until Mom and Dad began taking me out of the rubble of our home that Sylvie seemed to focus, her head snapping down and her eyes fixated.
So maybe with two of them there, maybe he's able to like keep himself like conscious, I guess, better since it's the two of them there. Maybe that's what it needs, or maybe she's gonna like notice something that he doesn't notice, and then that's what's gonna lead to some sort of progress. That's kind of what I'm thinking, because otherwise I don't really see what's gonna change. What did you miss? So I started to have an AI read, if that's what you mean. But it looks like Sylvie's back in his in the Keystone, or at least the part of Sylvie that is actually, I don't know. The other half of Sylvie is now in the Keystone now. So she's like aware and awake now.
On them as if they were a lighthouse seen through a long-fought storm. Grabbing onto that attention, I tried to reach her again. Sylvie, it's going to be okay. It's me, Arthur. I've managed to wake you up and bind you to the ghost of your past self. I struggled to put the strange thought into real words I knew she would understand. We're in the fourth Keystone, and I need you. Despite being able to see through them, I held her golden eyes. The huffing and puffing of her massive body slowed. One tentative footstep after another, she followed where mother and father carried me, their conversation meaningless background noise at this point. Her huge clawed limbs left no prints in the wreckage of the home as she passed.
Right,
Arthur, I let out a breath.
She's a dragon now, so
I didn't realize I was holding. It worked. Sylvie opened her mouth to speak, but I held her mind and focused on the memories of everything that had transpired in the Keystone so far. It took time for Sylvie to work her way through the shared visions,
so he's sharing
but I
the
didn't rush her.
visions.
Instead, we sat with my mother in the shade of a small tree as father inspected the ruins and spoke to a neighbor, who had... Finally, Sylvie's focus returned to the present. She had shrank back into her humanoid form and now regarded me with disbelief. I saw some of what was happening, like I was dreaming. This is all. She trailed off with a shake of her head. Sylvie watched my mother slowly brushing her fingers through my hair for a minute or two, then continued. I'm sorry, Arthur. I'm so sorry. The things you've had to endure here. It's sick. I think you get out of it what you bring into it, I answered, watching father pick through the rubble without truly seeing. The lives I lived here were the direct result of my own choices. Deviating from the experiences of my real life nearly always ends up resulting in. I stopped, frowning, as a new thought came to me. Almost tentatively, I again followed the distant itch back.
The AI said that word better than I did. The AI says tentatively. Tentatively. I try to pronounce the other T's, but I guess you can't pronounce all of them. So anyway,
Almost tentatively, I again followed the distant itch back to my physical body and activated Realm Heart. While there was no physical manifestation of the God Rune activating on my toddler body, ether and mana swam into my vision. A fiery claw squeezed my heart, which began to beat rapidly. Among the familiar colors that I expected to see, something else lit up under the influence of Realm Heart.
So I wonder if he's going to figure out a way to get back Regis, right? Because we also going to need Regis. So he was able to bring back. So he's able to bring back Sylvie by focusing on her. But how would he bring Regis back? Because Regis didn't exist. Maybe he needs to go. Okay, here's what he probably needs to do. So in order to bring back Regis, what he probably needs to do is go to the section of his life where he's forming his ether core, and then focus on Regis instead, and then have Regis manifest when he manifests his ether core. That's the only thing I can think of.
What is that? Sylvie asked, sharing in my vision through our mental connection. There was a nimbus of golden light radiating from the house. Thin golden threads seemed to connect the demolished house, me, my parents, and places that weren't places, but rather times, both forward into the future and back into the past. Fate, I thought.
Wait, hold on. There was a nimbus of golden light radiating from the house. Thin golden threads seemed to connect the demolished house. Thin golden threads. So not purple, not red or, fire or wind or earth or water, but gold. So that's what fate looks like. Fate looks like gold. Gold threads. Thin gold threads or golden threads seem to connect the demolished house, me, my parents, and places that weren't places but rather times, both forward in the future and back in the past. So is he seeing the threads in the past though? How will he even see that?
Breathlessly. This has to be fate. The gears of my mind spun as I tried to determine what had changed, what catalyst had allowed me to suddenly see this manifestation. Was it Realm Heart, or Sylvie's awakening in conjunction with my own, or some more subtle insight I'd gained that expanded on the properties of my abilities? Curious, I released Realm Heart. Again, the visible mana particles vanished instantly, while the ether lingered and faded more slowly. The golden threads remained longer, so long in fact that I began to think it may not be related to Realm Heart at all, before the threads finally began to dim and go out, leaving ghostly little afterimages in my eyes. Eventually, even the afterimages melted away. If this is fate, then perhaps you can see it now because it has decided you can? Sylvie asked haltingly.
That don't make sense. Decided? Why would it just decide, oh, I want you to see it now, or I want you to see me now? Maybe fate's conscious. I don't know.
Conscious? Aware?
I just said that. Maybe fate's conscious.
Sylvie asked haltingly. You think that fate might be conscious? Aware? Sylvie blinked, nonplussed. I hadn't really meant it that way, but it's possible, isn't it? Ether has a kind of consciousness, after all. Would fate not also, if it is an aspect of ether? So far, it seems as if the lesson you've learned about your life, your fate, is that you already lived through the best case scenario. After all. Yeah, basically. I mean, I'm glad that she's pointing it out, is that basically all the other alternatives, that's crazy though, because all the oh God, that lady's huge. Anyway, all the other this lady is so fucking huge, yo. She is just like, bro, like, go get on a diet, get your shit straight, because you should not be that big. Anyways, that distracted me for a second. But it seems like his life now is literally the best version of any of the other decisions. I forgot to mute my phone. But is the best version of any of the other decisions that he could have made in his life. So I guess that means that he's like extremely rare in being in this decision. But so far, all the changes happened either from the beginning or it happened near the middle when he made his when he accepted the artifact from Virion.
We don't know like what other little changes he could have made after he got his ether core that could have made him be in a better position too, you know? Like, I'm trying to think about what situation. Like, what would have happened if he'd gone back home right after he got out of the relic tombs? Would he have just died? Maybe he would have learned something new. Maybe they would have got away. Maybe Tacy would have came back and just killed them all anyway. You know what I'm saying? So like, I wonder if they're going to explore some sort of life, alternate universe or whatever after he gets his ether core, to see kind of what changes could have been made then that might lead to a different outcome. Because I'm trying to think of like what other decisions could he have changed that might have like changed the course of his life. Maybe not going to the Victoriad, right, and fighting Cadell. Maybe he would have done something different and fought Cadell later. I don't, you know, I'm just trying to think of some stuff, but I don't know.
You already lived through the best case scenario. After all, you said yourself that every time you've changed something, it has resulted in a worse series of events. And you think that the Keystone, or Fate, or the Jinn, whatever is driving this sequence of events, is trying to show me that things have unfolded for a reason? Sylvie shrugged her incorporeal shoulders. I wouldn't dare to hope it's that simple, and it does seem to fly in the face of your living through life exactly as you already had, since that resulted only in a sort of time loop. But as for why you can suddenly see these golden threads connecting moment to moment of your life, if this understanding is putting you on the right track, then you've gained some insight that fate wants you to have. I nodded along slowly. What she said made sense, but it was also very disconnected from how I thought about mana, ether, insight, and even the previous suppositions I'd made about the aspect of fate itself, and I found it difficult to fix this new paradigm in my mind. Why don't we continue forward? Sylvie suggested. We can check other points in your life for these trails or threads as well. Maybe we can confirm more about it or...
Right, okay, so maybe, these threads, like the golden threads, right, that's supposed to be fate, maybe these are only going to be visible for like key moments in his life, like key moments to where like he can change things, or like impactful things or something, to where he can kind of focus on and maybe bring Regis back. Maybe there's another key moment that, and it's probably when he formed his ether core, maybe there's another key moment that the threads might show that he can focus on to get some new insight. So maybe that's what he got to do. But then again, will the threads even show up? Or maybe ether needs to show up and then he's able to see the threads. I don't know.
Lock some new insight. Sponsored with me, I pointed out,
wait, hold on.
If I retract my mind, we don't know if you can travel along the timeline with me. I pointed out, if I retract my mind and allow events to proceed forward, you may be drawn away on the path you originally took during this time. Then I will see you at my birth, Sylvie answered with a wry smile. I squirmed in Mother's arms, and she let me scramble free. With one last concerned look, she stood and returned to my father. I sat on my knees beside Sylvie. Enter my body. Just guesswork, but maybe it will shield you or keep us together. She did, and I pulled back from the world, letting time rush by. Are you still with me? I asked. I am, Sylvie confirmed, and I felt relief wash through me. Progress. We were making progress. I plunged back into the rapidly passing time as we once again approached the mountain pass where the attack happened, and I was separated from my family. I found myself sitting in the cart with...
Oh, you know what's kind of crazy? Sylvie's going to be able to see her mom for the first time, because she's never been able to see her mom.
My mother, who was watching the scenery pass while chatting with Angela Rose and paying me no mind. With the itch in my real core as a guide, I reached for my physical body and focused on the Realm Heart God rune. As expected, the world lit up with particles of ether and mana, and running through them, a thin thread of golden light. Okay, so that key moment was when, what do you say? Wait. The mountain pass, and I was separated from my family. If I'm gonna sit in the car with my mother who was watching the scenery. Yeah, so this is the key moment when he gets attacked by the bandits or whatever. Okay. Leading onward to the side of the ambush and the cliff. Thinner, fainter threads ran back from the glowing aura around the mountainside to each of us, as well as the hidden bandits. Pieces were clicking into place. Stop, I said, my small voice.
Okay, so he's trying to change this. So what is he going to do differently this time, though?
Commanding. Durden pulled the reins, bringing our cart to a halt. The adults all looked at me with surprise. What are you doing? Sylvie asked. Then, oh, as my
What are you doing? Sylvia asked. Then, oh, that's my thought. Okay, right. So she
thoughts
knows.
passed to her. There is an ambush ahead, I continued, explaining to the twin horns and my parents what was going to happen. As they hurried into position to counter the bandits, I released Realm Heart and activated Aroa's Requiem. This time, although the mana and ether particles faded out of view, the golden lines remained.
Okay, so this is different. So the mana and ether faded out, but the golden lines remain. Why does the golden lines remain, but the mana and ether fade out? What does that mean exactly?
I reached out and took the golden thread leading away from the battle in my
Wait, he took the golden. Wait, what? You could take the golden threads?
fingers and gave it a small tug. The world around me rushed by, only
Go back.
I reached out and took the golden thread leading away from the battle in my fingers and gave it a small tug. The world around me rushed by, only it was moving in reverse. That small tug took me back a few minutes. When I released it, the cart was again moving forward. My mother still seated beside me chatting with Angela Rose, paying me no mind. The point where it stopped the cart passed, and we rolled forward toward the fight that separated me from my family.
So he can touch the lines and then go back in time? But why did he go backwards and not forward? Because he reached out and took the golden threads leading away from the battle and gave it a tug. So maybe it was because he took the threads that was leading away from the battle. Maybe if he took the threads leading toward the battle, it would have gone forward. It's what I'm thinking.
Sponsored content. Activating Aroa's Requiem again, I pulled the thread forward. The fight rushed by me as if time were sped up, but it was different than when I disassociated from my body and stepped away, letting life play out as it had happened without conscious effort or interference. This speeding up of events felt more intentional, with my mind and location both staying relevant to my place in
Okay, so he's keeping his mind. Okay, cool.
time.
So maybe the threads is what he needs to use in order for him to keep his consciousness, like, in his reality, whatever the fuck. You know what I'm saying?
Events still played out the same way, but there seemed to be no risk of me being caught up in the rushing tide of time and the vortex effect I had encountered before. Even as I plummeted off the cliffside yet again, I grinned. Everything was starting to make sense. I hurried forward to Sylvia's cave. It was another point in time marked with the golden aura of fate, which was no surprise.
It was another point in time marked with the golden aura of fate. So wait, all right, now I'm confused. First we have thin lines of golden, thin golden lines which represent fate. But now he's talking about the golden aura of fate, because the aura and the lines is completely different from one another, right? So I'm just wondering, like, was this supposed to be aura of fate, or was that supposed to be the thin lines of fate?
I can feel the egg pulling me in, Sylvie said as we descended into the cave where I would meet my grandma Sylvia, and Sylvie her mother, for the first time. It's fine, go to it. I'll see you on the other side. Despite my curiosity about using Realm Heart and Aroa's Requiem to explore the different potential outcomes of my time with Sylvia, there was something else more immediate that I wanted to accomplish.
Okay.
Sylvie was reborn as herself, and as I had hoped, the real Sylvie's mind remained awake and conscious inside of her newborn body.
Okay.
We sped forward, examining each major turning point in my life, unsurprised to find they were all marked by fate.
We sped forward, examining each major turning point in my life. So he's trying to find the turning points, and then after he finds the turning points, he's gonna change what. Or maybe he's just gonna become more aware of like some of the major events that happens.
It was as we sped forward, examining each major turning point in my life, unsurprised to find they were all marked by fate. It was as Winsome transported us to Epheatus for the first time that I was brought up by...
See, that's what's kind of funny too. The way that he says it's not Epheotis, it's Epheatus. It's the way the AI pronounces it.
Examining each major turning point in my life, unsurprised to find they were all marked by fate. It was as Winsome transported us to Epheatus for the first time that I was brought up by an unexpected and rather uncomfortable thought. All of these moments marked by fate, were they destined to happen that way? Did fate make these moments happen? Hearing my thoughts and understanding the underlying context, Sylvie's tone was consoling when she answered, "You made these choices, Arthur. You know that. No one was pulling the strings making these things happen." Still, I could feel her lack of surety, only partially veiled from our connection. There were so many places where it could go wrong. Even when I have made better choices in the Keystone, the result has always been my premature death. What if fate is prioritizing my survival over the good of the world? Or, Sylvie began, her tone that of someone explaining something very simple to someone very dense. Your survival is what is best for this world. But I think I have to point out that this Keystone and the events it creates aren't real. How could it know what would have happened in every given scenario? Fate, I reminded her. Arthur, Lady Sylvie, I must insist we continue on. Winsome said, turning to look at us against the backdrop of the many-colored bridge and Kessus's castle, the twin peaks of Mount Gila swallowed by an endless expanse of fog. Activating Aroa's Requiem, I sped forward through the bulk of my training until I
So this is good though, because now he's actually keeping his memories.
reached a specific point. The fact is that you're a walking collection of statistical improbabilities, Ren said, looking at me with clear exasperation. You have an innate ability to comprehend the workings of the four main elements, as well as some of their deviating elemental forms, coinciding so neatly with the fact that comprehension of all four elements is necessary to unlock the mysteries of ether, which the very Princess of Dragons just so happens to have kindly bestowed upon you. Everything about you is an outlier. Boy, even Asuras don't have that much innate talent and luck. Sponsored content.
I mean, he did say that that's a lot of luck he also has too.
If that's your way of cheering me up, thank you, I chuckled, getting to my feet. Now, what's next on our to-do list? Before that, give me your dominant hand.
Oh, maybe, okay, so maybe it's not his core, maybe it's the Achlorite stone thing that he can focus on to maybe summon Regis.
Ren rose from his conjured earthen throne and approached me. Spreading out my right hand, palm facing up, I stared at the Asura, waiting in anticipation. The next step was one I was less certain of than the previous revelations regarding Aroa's Requiem and Realm Heart, or even of combining Sylvie with her Keystone Ghost self. Ren pulled a fist-sized black case from his coat pocket, then opened it and removed a small pyramidal opaque gem. This is a mineral called a chlorite. By itself, it's a rather rare but useless piece of rock. However, with the right refining and synthesizing process, which I will keep unto my grave, so don't bother asking, it is capable of something remarkable. Like forming a weapon, or even, in the right circumstances, a living being, I replied. Ren's brows rose up into his unkempt hairline, and he regarded me with undisguised astonishment. So someone has been spilling secrets before their due time. I see, he said after a moment, recovering and glancing around sourly as if he would find the guilty party hiding behind a rock. How unprofessional. I'm going to tell you something, and you don't have any choice other than to believe me, I started, having already confirmed that this was one of those moments marked by fate. I took confidence from the knowledge that I could simply reverse course and attempt this again if I failed.
Okay.
Ren made a face, but I pushed on. Although it takes much more than a year, this chlorite does in fact grow into a weapon, a conscious being combining aspects of Sylvie, myself, and a Vritra retainer named Udo. Ren's mouth curved into a wry smile as if he thought I were teasing him. Listen, Ren, this being is born in a place called the Relic Tombs, the system of dungeons or chapters created by the Jinn. And so he is able to
he's giving him probably, I think he's probably giving him way too much information. Maybe he needs to not give him so much.
Listen, Ren, this being is born in a place called the Relic Tombs, the system of dungeons or chapters created by the Jinn, and so he is able to feed on and utilize ether, some part of that being's consciousness. His name is Regis, is currently sleeping within me, kind of, except my body is, outside of this space and time, and I need to wake him up. I think this chloride is the key to doing that. Ren's smirk had slowly slipped off his face. He was frowning at me as if I were delirious or worse. How could you know any of this, boy? The Elven Seer? Even if she'd shared some kind of vision with you, how would the... It's more complicated than that, I interrupted, drawing a scowl from my tutor. Suffice it to say that I know with utmost certainty that the consciousness that will grow out of this chloride is here, now, with us, sleeping. I want you to help me bind the mind back to the stone and awaken Regis early. Something clicked into place in Ren's expression. It wasn't belief, really, but more like intrigue, and a very real willingness to explore this possibility further. What are you suggesting?
Okay.
First, set the chloride under my skin, I said, holding my hand out again. Ren let out a long breath, then took hold of my hand and began pressing the opaque gem into my palm. I hardly registered the pain, and soon enough the chloride disappeared underneath my skin. I flexed my hand a couple of times, staring at my palm. Nothing happened. Now what? Ren asked. This is your area of expertise. How could this rock turn into a conscious, living creature? It's rare, Ren answered. He, too, was staring at my hand. With suitable focus, determination, and input of energy, a weapon grown from a chlorite will contain some measure of self-determination. This is born of the wielder, and fully binds a weapon to its user. But for the chlorite to grow into a fully self-aware, conscious being, this transfer of energy must be matched by an incredible will and, usually, a significant amount of desperation.
So it's a transfer of energy. So maybe he can't summon Regis until he does the crazy shit that he did, which was go to like the third stage of Sylvia's will and like die. And then maybe he also needs Sylvie to also die too. Like all that transfer of power is what wakes up Regis. So maybe all those things has to happen regardless in order for it to, like, because it seems like he's thinking that maybe he could help him wake him up prematurely, but I don't think that Ren could do that based off what he's saying.
Your state of being when the weapon manifested plays an essential role, as do the source and variety of inputs prior to manifestation. I smiled in amusement, recognizing Ren's words here as an echo of what he'd said when he discovered Regis was a conscious manifestation in my real life. And something of the chlorite remains, though. You said, well, never mind, but if Regis were here in body, you would be able to sense the chlorite's energy, right? Ren rested his hands on his hips and tapped his fingers rapidly. I would. A being born of a chlorite is mutable in nature, but the signature of its origin should be perceptible even if it were present only in a disembodied form, unless that form was shrouded inside the body of another living being, where its own signature would be disguised by the mana and natural rhythm of the host, the heartbeat, breathing, circulation from core to channels, etc. This may be made yet more complicated if the being is, how did you put it? Outside space and time, whatever that means. But if you knew it was there, and the host in question allowed you, could you find that sleeping mind? Ren regarded me as if I had completely lost my own mind. I won't pretend to even fully understand what that means, but, his eyes narrowed, and he mussed his already tangled hair. With a scoff, he waved a hand and conjured a flat bed of rock, indicating I should lie down.
Okay.
I did so, and he stood over me. Close your eyes and stop the noisy gears of your senseless brain from spinning so I can focus. I bit back a sarcastic retort and tried to do as he ordered, letting my mind still and go blank. My breathing slowed, as did my pulse. Calling back on multiple lifetimes of practice, I fell into a meditative blankness. Ren's hands passed over me. I could sense them, but I didn't focus on them. He hummed thoughtfully, then let out an irritated huff, his warm breath washing across my face. Then, after what felt like a very long time, physical fingers pressed down over my sternum, and fingers of magic probed deeper, wriggling through flesh and meat and even deeper than my core into something ethereal and intrinsic to my being, the nexus of where my waking consciousness and the keystone met my physical body outside of it. I focused on the weak sense I had of Regis's sleeping mind, which I felt even in that first moment after appearing inside the keystone, and hoped that the spotlight of my thoughts would point Ren in the right direction. Stop that, boy. Just lay there and act like the brain-dead loon you are. I take back every positive thing I've ever said about you. There's no way you are anything but a complete and utter kook. He cut off with a sharp inhalation, and I felt the incorporeal fingers close around something. By the ancients, you are right. An chlorite-born being, I can feel it tethered to you. No, woven into and through you, as tied to you as your own nervous system. A warm, familiar energy floated up from my sternum through my chest and into my arm, then down the arm to my hand, guided by Ren's magic. He snorted with delight. I've never rehomed a consciousness that already exists into an chlorite crystal before. It shouldn't work, but if you're right in this, Regis was really born from this chlorite. The chlorite burnt hot as molten iron in my palm, and I gasped at the pain. Ren grabbed my wrist, pinning my arm to the stone. Purple light glowed through my skin, which felt like it would burn away at any moment.
Yeah, I don't think this is right. I don't think he's supposed to awaken him without going through those processes. Maybe it won't even be Regis anymore. Maybe it'll be something else. Like, because he's not even in a relic tomb, so there's not like a concentration of ether. Because we know that the relic tombs has like a strong concentration of ether. So maybe without that, Regis won't even be Regis.
What's wrong? What's happening? Sylvie's voice sounded in my mind from where she still trained with her grandfather in Castle Indrith. My eyes rolled back into my head as my body bucked. A powerful hand pressed against my chest, holding me flat and preventing me from hurting myself. Not that I could have felt it past the agony of the chlorite. A black will-o-wisp the size of my clenched fist floated free of my flesh, and the pain vanished. I sank back, no longer bucking against Ren's arms, sweat pouring from my face and my breath coming in desperate gasps.
Okay.
I just barely made out the ball of dark light, within which two bright sparks glinted like eyes and a black slash below them looked like a wry smile. I had no breath to speak, no focus to generate words. Even my mind seemed clouded, and I couldn't sense the thoughts of either Regis or Sylvie. The will-o-wisp darted closer to me and dipped low. Behold, Master, I, Regis, the mighty weapon gifted to you by the Asura so long ago, have finally manifested in all my glory. The two bright sparks glinted as if they were blinking, and the wisp turned slowly around in a circle. Wait, what the hell is going on?
What the hell is going on? Okay. Okay, so Regis is back. Regis is back. Regis is back. So, okay, cool. That's cool. All right, so he's got Sylvie back, and then he's got Regis back. So, see, I didn't think Regis was gonna come back. I thought that he needed to like kill himself, and then he'd be able to form him when he makes his core or something. But I guess Ren was able to do it since he's a genius and shit. So I guess that makes sense. I guess that makes a little bit of sense. But okay. Okay, so I'm trying to see. So he's making progress. He's making good progress. So at this point, do they need to like figure out a way to keep everybody together and then like restart his life again? Or does he just continue on from here? Because after he leaves here and he is done with his training, that's when he meets Tessia and stuff, and meets Tessia's friends and things like that. So that's when he does all that. So it has to be after, I don't know where they're going to go from here. I really don't. I really don't know where they're going to go. But the chapter was cool, though. The chapter was cool. We at least made progress. That's the thing I like the most, is that we actually made progress in the story to where he's kind of learning and tapping into fate. You know, we got the golden lines of the past, the present, the future. And then we got Sylvie being able to attach her mind to her ethereal form or whatever. And then now we got Regis waking up and he's understanding what's going on. So at this point, this changes things though, because if he has Regis this soon, maybe he never needs to even experience all the things that he went through before, right? Maybe he has another weapon that he can use. I mean, I'm guessing Regis will still need ether though, right? But then again, how would their relationship be with Arthur not having an ether core? I'm really curious how this is going to happen, because without him having an ether core and without him being in the Relatombs, how would Regis be able to grow? Will he still be able to make God runes without an ether core? I guess it's possible, but I don't know. I'm really just kind of like up in the air. I don't really know what to think. But this is cool though. This is a cool chapter. As far as what's gonna happen next, I'm gonna do another part of He Who Fights with Monsters here soon. Depending upon what happens this weekend, it might be over the weekend, but it should be soon though. But other than that, I'll give this chapter like an 8. I get chapter 8 out of 10. I just really like that we made some progress with Fate and that we're actually getting somewhere. So I like that part. But as far as like what's going on with Agrona, what's going on with Kara, what's going on with Ellie and stuff, what's going on with Veray, I'm guessing we might be getting some of that stuff next chapter. We're probably not going to resume off of this chapter. So I guess we should expect that next chapter, which will be tomorrow. So I'll probably end up making a video for that chapter either Friday or Saturday or so. Do I want to read the preview for next chapter? No, I typically don't read the previews. I don't even have the previews unlocked because, like I said some months back that I pay $5 a month. I can't afford $25 a month, you know. So I don't even mess with the previews. The previews don't really matter to me at all. But yeah, so I should have that chapter up or that reaction up either Friday at night sometime or Saturday at some time. It all depends on if I'm gonna get a load that's gonna be going somewhere else, depending upon how tomorrow goes. So that's kind of gonna determine how it's gonna, what's what. 8 out of 10. So what, Michael? You think 8 out of 10 too? I say 8 out of 10 just because of the progress we got. So, I mean, I think it's cool. But I guess prepare for He Who Fights with Monsters probably tomorrow. It could be today. Honestly, it could be today, depending upon how the NFL draft goes and how boring that's going to get. If it gets boring, I might just, I don't know, start reading it today. If it's not, then it'd probably be sometime tomorrow. I hope, or sometime this weekend. I don't want to be lying again. So we'll see. But anyway, I appreciate y'all joining in though. You guys can give me your comments about what you thought about the chapter 2. I'm really feeling like the story is gonna be ending pretty soon. It's really getting that like ending feel. Like, okay, now we're getting towards the resolution of the story. I just don't know how strong Arthur's gonna be once he taps into this aspect of fate. Like, is he gonna be just so OP to the point where, like, if somebody launched an attack at him, he can literally make time go back to where the attack never even existed? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know how that's gonna work in battle. Like, how is fate gonna work in battle? Like, can he just turn people into babies like One Piece? Or like, I don't know. I don't know how it's gonna work. But we'll see though. We'll see. But anyway, I appreciate you guys joining in. Give me some likes. Help me out with the channel and shit. I appreciate the one like. I got one like. One like is cool. If I got like 7 likes, that'd be better. But anyway, I'll check you guys out in the next video. Peace.